All right, welcome to the easiest way to reach any of your fitness goals. And if anybody knows me, they know I like desserts. I like Christmas cookies, anything Christmas dessert related. But I hate the pounds that come with eating them. And so today I'm going to be showing you one recipe about how I can still enjoy my Christmas favorite desserts and still be on track with my diet, reach all my fitness goals, and have the best of both worlds. So you can have your cake and eat it too. And that brings us to today's video. Today we're going to be making a Yule log cake. So I was walking around the grocery store the other day and I saw this Yule log cake and I was like, there's definitely a way where we can make that healthier and delicious. So that's what we're going to be doing today. These are all the ingredients. Probably can't see all of them, but we'll be talking about them more as we go along. So I'm going to make this as easy as possible because I don't really want to be here for hours and hours making some kind of cake. I want this to be as easy as possible. So we got a blender. All this stuff is going into the blender. It's going to be mixed up. It's going to create a batter. Then we're going to bake it. That's going to create a cake. And then we got some icing alternatives that will be healthy icing. And then we can make our Yule cake. So this is what we're going to be doing. We've got our blender. We're going to be combining this right here is pumpkin puree, extremely low in calories, extremely moist, and it's not going to taste a lot like pumpkin. Honestly, it's just a really good moist making ingredient that can make all of your cakes, cookies, sort of baked goods a little bit more wet and not like that dry kind of like crumbly, disgusting dessert that most healthy recipes use. So we're gonna go in here with about a cup of this pumpkin puree. If you're worried about it tasting like pumpkin, you don't like pumpkin, I promise you won't taste it. It's just straight pumpkin puree, unsweetened, so it doesn't have like a strong pumpkin flavor like that pumpkin spice flavor. We are going to be using other spices that will make it sort of taste and smell more Christmassy and festive, but yeah, about half of this can here, which the can is 29 ounces, so roughly like 15-ish ounces, which actually is a little more than a cup, so probably like a cup and a half of pumpkin puree. I am also a fan of the eye test, so I really don't measure everything down to the exact sort of tool. I kind of guess, but that is also because I have cooked in the past before and I can kind of guesstimate where I'm at. I will have exact ingredient amounts in the actual recipe, but for now, this is kind of what it looks like. About a cup and a half of pumpkin puree. Obviously, depending on everything, I'll make it a little bit more moist or a little bit less moist. This is Fairlife milk, which is pretty much all protein. Very good, ultra filtered protein milk. It is fat free, so that is good. Less calories, less problems. And we're gonna be going in here with about quarter cup, just a little bit there. Then we're gonna be hitting with some spice. I'm doing this in no exact order, so again, it's all getting combined anyway. Easy as possible. This is ground nutmeg, gonna give it that holiday feel. So we're just gonna be going in with about a teaspoon there of nutmeg. That's good. Ground ginger, we're gonna be having that sort of like gingerbread feel. And so we're gonna be hitting that. Obviously, this is very strong. You can smell this. You don't want to put too much. It is like very strong. So just a little bit goes a long way. So we'll say that's about an inch or two of ground ginger. Less than a teaspoon, I'd say. Pure vanilla extract going in. I measure by the capful, but you can measure by teaspoons as well. I'm gonna hit this with 2 capfuls, or about teaspoon and a half. We got some sugar-free, fat-free vanilla jello pudding mix. And so very low calorie. If you get the full fat, full sugar, a lot of calories, not good. A lot of calories, a lot of problems. Sugar-free, fat-free, which means we are free of problems. I'm gonna hit it with about half this packet here. And the reason why I'm using this vanilla is because our cake base is going to be vanilla flavored. If we were using a chocolate base, we would use the chocolate Jell-O. And so you can invert this recipe because it's going to be a vanilla cake base with chocolate icing. You can invert it to be chocolate cake with vanilla icing, whichever you prefer. But that's that. Ground cinnamon, more of that holiday spice sweetness. So hit it with a little bit of that. All right, now for our main star of the show. This, I'm actually really surprised that they had it. Zero Sugar Cake Mix by Pillsbury, classic yellow. And so I was actually going to find an alternative to make cake mix that was zero sugar, but apparently now they make it. So that makes it even easier. And so for this recipe, I'm gonna go with about half of this bag, and then we'll evaluate where we're at. Dumping it in there. All right, it's about half. A little bit more. And I'm memorizing how much I put, so don't worry. The recipe that's written will be way more exact than this, but I just want to show you guys you don't have to be super exact to see great results. You make this as easy as possible. It doesn't have to be stressful. If you don't cook a lot, if you don't bake a lot, there's no reason to stress. No reason to stress. All right, let me get a little spoon here. That's a big spoon. Whatever. Anyway. Baking powder, I'm gonna go with about a teaspoon. So this is a tablespoon, so I'm gonna hit it with about 1/3 of that tablespoon, which is a teaspoon. If you didn't know that, that's the conversion metric. That was of baking powder. I'm gonna do the same thing with the baking soda. And so, teaspoon and a teaspoon in. Very nice. Hit it with some PB Fit. And so this is basically powdered peanut butter, just powdered peanuts. Takes away all the oils from peanut butter, or at least 94% of it, and so take away a lot of the calories. Now this has a strong peanut butter flavor, so I'm not going to put too much. So I'm going to put about 32 grams or 2 tablespoons, or very high rounded tablespoon, same thing, about 32 grams. That's in. Another star of the show, classic. You got to have your protein in there. So this is the glazed donuts protein powder from Axe and Sledge. I find it tastes pretty good, but honestly, use any sort of protein that you want. You can use this one for 10% off using code Brian10. I don't remember the code. I'll put it on the screen, but you can save 10% if you want to use this exact one. If not, use a vanilla-based one, because we're making a vanilla-based cake. So I'm gonna hit it with 1 scoop and another scoop going in, which is about the end of this tub. So we'll just put the rest of it in there. Make it easy. So your protein's in. Getting your protein with your dessert, very important. Help us stay on track with our protein goals. Egg whites, another straight protein, but it's also going to thicken up our cake. So I'm gonna go in with about another 1/3 of a cup there. 1/4 cup. That's a 1/3 of a cup right there. 1/3 of a cup of egg whites. And then we're gonna do 1 whole egg. Eggs have a little bit more calories than egg whites because there's a yolk in there, but I find that having a yolk makes everything bind together a lot easier. And if it's 1 egg across the entire cake, it's really good. So 1 egg is in. That is almost all of our ingredients, except for we've got 0 sugar, non-fat, vanilla Greek yogurt. And so 0 sugar, obviously, take out the sugar, take out the calories, take out the problems. Greek yogurt, a lot lower in calories and higher in protein than regular yogurt, and vanilla flavored. So not too much. I'm just gonna do about 6 tablespoons, which is roughly half cup, maybe 3/4 of a cup of vanilla yogurt. Delicious. All right, it's time to blend everything up because that is all of our ingredients. Really easy. So, into the blender and turning it on. All right, so that was about 1.5 minutes, and you'll notice a lot of the stuff, the powders and the dry ingredients might get stuck on the side. So you might just have to stop it for a second and just kind of scrape off the edges down there just to get everything mixed in well. You can also just do this by hand if you don't have a blender on hand. It pretty much just works the same. I just find that I can do other stuff simultaneously if this is just blending in the blender itself. And so really get all the sides, really scrape it down, get in there, make sure everything's mixed quite thoroughly. It smells delicious. It's got a nice orange color to it, which I think personally makes it more festive, but maybe that's just me. For the people that are triggered of me saying moist, that's tough. Okay, back into the blender, and we're back. All right, that was about 30 seconds more, and now I've set my oven to be preheated at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I've got a shape of a rectangle here of a baking sheet. And the reason why we're doing a baking sheet and not just like a normal cake pan is because we're gonna be rolling this over. We're gonna be making a Yule log, so it has to be circular. And I want this to be about the size that I want the width of my Yule log. So we're gonna be folding it over the icing and making it like that log flavor. Not flavor, but shape. And so I've got this baking sheet. It's about, I don't know, 12 by 16 inches. And I'm gonna spray it with non-stick with the parchment paper. I find parchment paper works better than foil paper in this instance. And so I've got parchment, sprayed that, creased it the best I can because I don't want the thing like wobbling out of me, but when we pour this on, it'll stay flat. And so all we're gonna be doing now, got all of our ingredients in there, we're just gonna be pouring this mixture into, wow, it's really thick. So that's actually really good. So we're just gonna be pouring this mixture onto the pan. Don't be afraid to make a mess in the kitchen. You're having fun. So I will clean up as I go and as it's baking anyway. You gotta clean up anyway, so you might as well make a mess. You gotta clean up. Give yourself a reason to clean. Now basically we're just gonna smooth this out to be into that rectangle shape that we want it to be. Really press it into all the edges. And that's it. This is going to be going into the oven at 350 degrees for roughly half an hour, although each oven is different, so just keep an eye on it. You could poke a toothpick in the center of it, and if it comes out dry, it's good to go. If it still comes out wet, leave it in there for a little bit longer. But that's the batter I'm going to be putting in the oven. And then I'll catch back up with you to actually assemble the Yule log itself and put the icing on. All right, so the cake is out of the oven, and now it is time to assemble, or at least start to prep out, the basis of our Yule log. And so there's gonna be two parts here. One is molding the cake to the actual Yule, just to make sure it bends fine and it doesn't break when we're folding it. And so because of that, we have a towel here that is lightly coated or dusted with some flour just to prevent it from sticking. We're gonna let that cake cool for another minute or two. We still want it warm when we're folding it so that it'll actually mold well. And then we're gonna put it in the fridge so it hardens up. Not hardens, but like actually molds. And we don't want it too warm because that's just gonna create a mess. And so once we take that out of the fridge, once it's molded, and unroll it again so it can actually hold form, then we'll put our icing and filling, roll it back up, all right? While that's thawing out and sort of cooling off, we're gonna be making our icing. And so this is gonna be our key ingredient here, which is our 0 sugar icing. Now, I will say, even though it is 0 sugar, it's still a decent amount of calories. It's 100 calories per 2 tablespoons. And we're probably gonna be using like 10 times that amount. And so we don't wanna add an extra 1,000 calories because more calories, more problems. And so we're gonna be mixing it with some Greek yogurt. And also just to add some more volume, some more protein in there, vanilla version just for some good taste. And so we're gonna be doing about 1 part icing, 2 parts Greek yogurt. And then the key here is that we're gonna refrigerate it afterwards so that it all like stays together and binds together. It doesn't sort of like cool out on you. And so you want this cake to be in the refrigerator. It's gonna be a refrigerator cake, okay? And so we're just gonna be mixing up exactly what we said. I'm also going to be throwing in some unsweetened coconut. I like coconut. It also makes it more festive because it looks like snow and it's kind of cool and whatever. But if you are gonna use some coconut, some flake coconut, use the unsweetened version. It's gonna add the coconut flavor without all of the sugar and all the stuff that's in it. So if you are getting coconut, there is a sweetened version. More sugar, more calories, more problems. Unsweetened version, that's the way to go. All right, so like I mentioned before too, probably gonna be about 1-to-2 ratio. And so I'm gonna take about 1/3 of this chocolate icing right here, which is going to be roughly about a cup, maybe about 3/4 of a cup there of the chocolate icing. And then we're going to be throwing in some of our Greek yogurt. So about 1.5 cups of Greek yogurt. And then it's simply just a matter of mixing it up. And so the good thing about the chocolate icing is that it's much, much thicker than just the Greek yogurt. If you were to put just the Greek yogurt on, you'd still be good. But I find that's a little bit thin. And so if we can mix it up with the icing, you'll get a good consistency in between the both of them. It'll feel light, it'll be refreshing. You'll still get the icing flavor. It's not gonna be some like mock icing that just doesn't even taste like icing. Just gonna whip that up. It's honestly gonna taste like a whipped icing. If you've ever had whipped icing, it's gonna taste like that, but for far less calories, far less sugar, and more protein. And so we're just gonna be whisking that up and doing it with a fork here. My whole body's shaking with it. I just noticed I do that. I'm shaking my entire body. Anyway, whisk that up. Be throwing in some of our shredded, unsweetened coconut flakes. Just sort of mix that in evenly. That's also gonna thicken up this icing, which will make it bind and hold together better. If you don't want to use the coconut, you don't have to. I just like coconut. I like to throw in coconut wherever I can. And that is going to be our filling or icing for our Yule log. And so once that cake is cooled off, we are going to be assembling it into our log. What we want to do here is take it out, and we notice that the cake is pretty thin. And the reason for this is that the thicker the cake is, the tougher it is to roll up, okay? And so we don't want it like paper thin. We still want a cake, but we don't want it to be too thick. And so if that means that if you baked it too thick, if you have to slice it horizontally just to get it into a nice, like probably a 1/2 inch thickness, then do so. Then you got 2 Yule logs, all right? So I just prevented the sticking of the parchment paper by just going around. If any parts are stuck, kind of just lifting them up a little bit, making sure nothing's gonna break as we flip it over. Once that's set, we're just gonna flip it over onto our towel. Flour goes everywhere. Take off the parchment paper, and then now is our time to roll up this Yule log. And so actually, what I'm gonna do is bring this over to the edge so I can roll properly. And it's just a matter of folding over. Try to go as best as you can. If you have to stop, it's a very tough part to get to prevent it from breaking. So we're just gonna be holding tight, flipping over. Rolling it. All right, I think it held form, but we'll just roll it up, put it on our baking sheet, put it in the fridge quickly so that it hardens up. And then we're gonna take that out in about 10-15 minutes, throw on our filling, roll it back up, and we're good to go. All right, so it is done chilling in the refrigerator. And now for the moment of truth, nice and easy. Has to not break it. Good, it seems like it held up quite well. Held shape. It'll hold now a little bit more when we rebend it after we put our filling on. And so I'm just gonna scoop our filling onto cake. Get as much of it as you can. If you don't use it all, it's not that huge of a deal. But we don't want to pile it so high that we can't pull it up. And so just enough to cover it all. I'm leaving some room at the edges because when we do roll it up, it'll sort of push a lot of that filling to the side. So I'm leaving a little bit of space on all sides. And now it's just time to re-roll. Big roll so we don't break it. Roll it together. I'm gonna fill a little bit more because it is a little bit thin there with the filling. I'll try to stack as much of it in the front as I can so to have a good base for when we're rolling it up. Good solid roll, nice and gentle. Good, it's holding there. And we're just gonna let it rest. So you can see it took our Yule log shape, rolled up quite well. And now I'm gonna put this in the fridge to set a little bit longer. It doesn't need to be in the towel. I'm probably just gonna transfer it into the baking sheet, just let it sit there. And then we're gonna slice it up, it'll be good to go. All right, so our Yule log is done being cooled off. It's ready to slice it. And I'm just gonna cut, it's about half right there. We'll mark off a quarter. So I'll do a quarter, which is a pretty decently thick size slice of cake. Roughly about 2-3 inches. And so we're just gonna cut that there. That's what that looks like. A nice Yule cake right there. Look at the inside of this too. That looks delicious. Nice and filled, full cake. And some coconut around it just for festivity. But yeah, that is Christmas Yule cake, to where you can still stay on track for all your goals. Tastes delicious. And give it a quick taste test here. Look at it just goo out. Coconut cake, chocolate filling. Delicious. And so, the moment of truth is that for this slice, we'll start with the slice. For this slice of the Yule cake, which is a quarter of the cake, comes out to 330 calories and 26 grams of protein, which is fantastic. So we got 26 grams of protein, which will help stay satiated, help us reach our protein goals. And it's only 330 calories for this entire slice. So a normal slice of cake can be like 500 calories with like no protein whatsoever. This is doing the opposite. Still tastes great, still gets our cravings in. We can still enjoy Christmas dessert and stay on track with all of our goals. And it's festive.